Our next episode takes us to the hills of Beverly Hills, Los Angeles.
Absolutely beautiful place, guys.
To sit with celebrity fashion stylist and social activist Ugo Mozie.
How does one become so acclaimed at such a young age?
Ugo shares the highlights of his star-studded career.
I always incorporated different styles and silhouettes into my everyday style and looks.
Shares for the first time the reason his family moved away from his birthplace of Nigeria.
The robbers end up killing like a lot of people. He wanted to get us to safety to figure out what was going on.
And the challenges of being a minority in his career.
The higher up you go in that food chain of fashion, the less color you see, period.
We talk superpowers, fears.
I can't sleep when the room is pitch black.
Inspiration, faith, and the importance of finding your individual voice.
Hi, my name is LEAH Marville, and on paper, I've achieved many things that one would think should equate to success and happiness. But what if I told you that for many years, behind the facade of my life, I was carrying a deep pain? As I continue to search for my own truth, I will share the incredible stories of the people that cross my path, with the hope that you find inspiration, courage, and peace along your own journey. Life for sure will give you lemons, but we can always make lemonade. As you guys know, this show is about several things. It's about possibility, it's about courage, it's about transformation, it's about spirituality, it's about success. And essentially, every story that we bring to you is something that can inspire you. It's something that you can learn from. And I think definitely Ugo is the perfect guest. In that, for me, Ugo is but 27 years old. He has all these beautiful accolades, but this incredible introduction, having started his fashion career at 17 years old, and then going on to become the director of public relations at Vivienne Westwood at 22,
23.
23, who does that? His Instagram bio calls him, you've labeled yourself as like a creative director and an activist. And for the rest of the fashion world, he is a trailblazer in fashion.
Thank you.
So I want to welcome formally Chief Ugo Mozie III to our set. So tell me about your name, Chief Ugo Mozie.
My name, yes, I was born Ugo Mozie, and the title Chief was inherited from my grandfather and my father. Mm-hmm. My grandfather is a chief, and you know, in our tribe, every first son that comes after him is a chief, and I'm my father's first son. My dad was the first son, so it's kind of like a tribal thing in our village.
Right, and this is the village of what, in Nigeria?
The village is called Nimo, and it's in Anambra State in Nigeria.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So can you describe what was growing up in Nimo like? Because you were born there, and you experienced life there for a period of your time before you moved to the U.S. So can you show us, like, visually?
Well, so I was born in Enugu, which is like in the same, about an hour from Nimo, and I can't say I remember too much because I moved when I was about 3 or 4 years old.
Right.
So even after moving to America, my parents kept us back and forth. Nigeria almost every Christmas for the holidays, for vacations, and so this kept me very rooted and very, very rooted in the African culture, throughout my life. So there was never a disconnect.
Right.
So I remember always being there and always just experiencing the art, the culture, and the love.
Right. And why did your family move from Nigeria? What led it? What was the result? What was the cause? Sorry.
So my family moved to Nigeria, from Nigeria to America, because there was a situation that happened in our home, in our lives, pretty much. Right. My father was involved in some political business at the time, and so there was an evening when we were all leaving a family gathering, heading back home, and our cars were followed by some unknown people that turned out to be some armed robbers. By the time they all came in the driveway, my family had already got upstairs, and so basically, long story short, they ended up getting into this like gun war downstairs, and the robbers end up killing like a lot of people, like my mom's brother, in our house, like in the compound in the front. Mom's brother, my dad's cousin, like a driver, and literally the next week, my dad and everybody, we moved to America because he wanted to get us to safety to figure out what was going on.
And you were there at that time. Do you think that experience has impacted your life at all?
I believe that it's impacted my life definitely in a positive way, more than anything. I feel that situation gave me an early sense of purpose, because I used to always just wonder, like, how did I survive this, and why did God spare us, you know? And I realized that for God to have spared us in that moment, that there's a reason why, you know, that I have a bigger purpose, or I have something to do on this earth.
Right.
And that thought is what kind of always gave me a certain motivation to like keep on moving and not give up.
Yeah.
Like if I was able to survive that and come out of that situation and be where I am now, then I can do anything.
Right. So you moved to Texas, you set up life, you go to school there, so you pretty much become a Texan kind of guy.
It's true.
So at which point in your life do you decide that you want to get into fashion?
I always credit just my African roots and my cultural background, because I always dressed differently. I always incorporated different styles and silhouettes into my everyday style and looks. And from an early age, people became keen of that, and so they would hire me to like make them custom stuff. Like I have friends pay me to like do their jackets for them or all these kind of stuff, and that kind of became, you know, my first experience in fashion.
Right.
And after moving to New York when I was 17, that was my first, my first time alone, my first time out in the world to explore and, you know, do so. You know, when you're in a situation where you have to be creative on how you make money and find different ways to hustle. You know, I figured that something that I had different was my ability to make these clothes. So that became my hustle. You know, I started designing for individuals, and that became celebrity styling, designing for celebrities. And that's kind of how I started, was just from making stuff for my friends around. 2009, I launched my own clothing line at the time. And that was my first stamp into fashion. You
have a lot of success in fashion. I mean, we can read about it. We know, you know, I've read that you started, as you said, at 17 with your first collection, and then you've styled people like Beyonce and Justin Bieber, and you've worked in Paris, and you've worked with Dolce & Gabbana, and you've 22. You're working with Vivienne Westwood. Like, how do you do that? Because there are a ton of people interested in fashion, pursuing fashion, but just don't have this opportunity. Is it something that were you an intern in a particular place that put you in the right place at the right time? Did you socialize your way there? Did you dream about it, pray about it, and it just miraculously happened? Like, how does one become so acclaimed at such a young age?
I would say all the above. It took all three. You know, it was a balance of all three. I definitely it took a lot of confidence, you know, at a young age, believing that I could do anything that anyone else can, played a huge role. I got my first internship in fashion when I first moved to New York. I was interning with a stylist named Jason Rembert, who was a good friend of mine. And that was my first insight into the world of styling, like understanding like how it worked, the business, the behind the scenes, how to pull, how to create an image. So that was like, yeah, my only real education in fashion was that internship. I fell in love with the idea of image building.
Right.
You know, it wasn't more so the fashion and the clothes, but I love the fact that I can look at a person or a brand or a thing and visually take it to the next level.
Right. What is the Ugo Mozie aesthetic?
I would say it's timeless, it's distinct, it's cultural, and it's personal. Because for me, like, I do have my own personal aesthetic, but when it comes to working with other clients and people, it's important for me to make sure that they're also representing their own aesthetic.
Right.
You know, that their own self and their own personality is dominant within the look.
Right.
You know, it's not about me putting somebody in what I think is cool or what I would wear, but it's about, you know, using my taste and idea of quality
Right.
to bring out what I think their aesthetic is. But I think from my personal, you know, day-to-day style and aesthetic, it's definitely, it changes so much. You know, I dress according to how I feel at the time, but for the most part, like, I think I dress very worldly. You know, I'm inspired by different cultures and from traveling.
I think every time I see you, I associate like drapery and like silks and really refined materials and patterns as well. I feel like
I love silks.
Yeah.
Silk and linen is my go-to fabrics.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I feel like that's
it's my go-to fabric for sure. I just for comfort, you know, for me it's about comfort before anything.
Yeah.
Even with my clients, this is like, if you don't feel comfortable or you can move and do anything, then you're probably wearing the wrong outfit. So that's just like for me, where I try and wear things that translate throughout the day.
Right.
Like I can wake up and put it on and have it all day and go to dinner in the same outfit.
Right. Yeah. I love that too. So tell me, at 22, you get this job at Vivienne Westwood, right? You don't know shit about shit at 22. Like, let's be real. We think we do, but we really don't, right? So then, how do you get through having such a prestigious job at 22, you know, with the experience that you have at that point?
I would say the main tool that I had to get in that job, through that job, and delivering that job was confidence. Because again, not only was I 22, 23 years old and young, but I was also the only minority black person in the entire executive team for the company. You know, so like I was the youngest person and I was the only black person.
What did that feel
So, you know, it was a challenge. It was a challenge in the sense of like I was the PR director for the US department.
Right.
And the brand, it's a British brand. So the UK department is kind of the overseeing department for the entire company. So everything that I would pitch or put in had to go through them and get approved by them. And it was just difficult getting a lot of things. Just like it was difficult communicating and letting them understand why certain things had to be a certain way. Right. It was a great learning experience for both of us. You know, for them it was about really allowing somebody to take the company outside the box. For a company that's been doing the same system, the same thing for decades, you know, it was the first time they were actually, you know, stepping out of their comfort zone and they were seeing huge results. And it was great. You know, for me it was very challenging, but it was an experience that I appreciate so much because it allowed me to understand the inside of the fashion industry in a very direct perspective. You know, I got a chance to witness it from the inside, you know.
Like what are some of the things that the outside person wouldn't know?
Again, like I would say again, like the lack of diversity.
Right.
The fact that like the higher up you go in that food chain of fashion, the less color you see, period. It becomes harder and harder to kind of push a certain narrative, a conversation, when you're the only body that can kind of understands what you're talking about. You know, so that was the biggest thing, that a misconception that I would say. You know, people see fashion and you see the glitz and the glam and the fun and the luxury and cars and the jets and expensive clothes, but in order to maintain all those things and maintain that lifestyle, it's a lot of business, it's a lot of technical politics and psychological warfare, you know.
Psychological warfare, because you know, there's a lot, as you say, I can hear you talking conceptually about, you know, being a person, a minority in an executive team, but that plays on your self-confidence, and you have to be confident every single day. That eventually you might almost become convinced of their lack of appreciation for your ideas. You have a lot of mantras. I know I watch your Instagram page. Is that how you've developed into this kind of consciousness? Were you always spiritual? Can you tell me a little bit about how you cope with that?
I've always been a spiritual person. I've always had very high faith, I would say. I've always kind of believed in big, extraordinary, impossible things where possible. So it's not too far-fetched. I still have the same kind of confidence in my belief and in God. I would say that I discovered my faith at a very early age, and that's why I'm able to be the spiritual being I am today. You know, it's not something that was like overnight.
So I want to ask you, because you've done a lot, you've seen a lot. What is your purpose? What is the purpose of all of this?
My purpose, I feel like our purposes either change or enhance or grow through different chapters of our lives and times. But one purpose that I know that's a long-term life thing for me is one, being a source, a bridge for Western culture, the entire world, and Africa. Specifically Nigeria, where I'm from, but Africa in general. And also being a pioneer for storytelling in the Black and African story. I feel like there's a lot of disconnects between Africa, the rest of the world, even Africa and African Americans, African in the diaspora. There's a disconnect there. And for me, like being born there and growing up here, I feel like I've had such a strong understanding and like foot in both doors. You know, I know how to speak both languages. I know how to navigate there and in here. You know, I know people there, I know people here, and I think it's like it's my duty to be a portal for people to come and, you know, be more educated on what's happening in Africa, what Africa is, what's going on there. So I'm very passionate about creating films and story and content and media that can educate people on what the reality of what Africa is. You know, right now it's like people, you know, people are very inquisitive. The knowledge they have is it's either like Black Panther fantasy or it's like Blood Diamond, Last King of Scotland, gory, like kidnapping, crazy. So, but like there needs to be like that, you know.
The truth of what Africa actually is.
Exactly.
The full spectrum of what it is. I mean, I'm right there with you on that. I totally understand, you know, I've lived in South Africa for a short period of my life, and I feel so passionately what you feel as you describe it. My heart is pumping, because there is the need for people to see true Africa. Like, Africa is diverse. I mean, it's a big continent of, I don't even know the number of countries, but it's a lot. It's so many countries with individual cultures, ways of doing things. It's dense, densely populated, dense with culture. And it's a full spectrum of luxury that I've never seen before anywhere else. I've seen in Africa too. You know, yes, there are the less than desirable things that are also happening in Africa as well. But I feel like the actual story needs to be told.
Definitely.
And so I applaud you on that, you know, and I definitely see how you have been a bridge to your organization, WANA. Is that what?
Yes.
We are the new Africa.
Yes.
Can you tell us?
Absolutely.
Is that part of your purpose, you think?
It is.
Yeah.
You know, and the nonprofit was kind of made for the same reason. I wanted to create a tool to kind of funnel the information, the stories, create something where people can come and be educated. You know, we're building a creative institute in Lagos and in Ghana, somewhere where we can be training local youth and kids on technology and media and just creative fields, and have somewhere where people from overseas can come and like also come there and meet the kids, train them directly, create their own workshops, like a hub, you know. And WANA in general, We Are New Africa, it's a movement, you know. It's a movement, and it's a group of people, you know, that share the same interest of, again, like exposing the new, the fresh, the reality of Africa, you know, all over the world. And it's not just on the continent. It's, you know, Afro-Latinas, Afro-Caribbeans, anybody, you know, anybody African descent. It's all of us. Like, we're all New Africa, and that's the educational part that needs to be told. Is that we're all the same, you know, and
all from the same place.
All from the same place.
Yeah. So if you had to identify, I don't know if you've done this before, but what would you say is your superpower?
I would say my superpower is the ability to read and translate emotions and personalities
I like
with
that,
people.
actually. I want to go deep.
Okay, even deeper than we've already gone?
Yeah.
We're getting deeper?
Yeah, guys, that's how I like to go to like the core. Like I want to meet you. Like,
you're trying to make me cry. You're trying to Oprah me over here.
No, I promise I will not. I mean, if you want to cry, I mean, it's welcome here. But no, we've spoken about Ugo, you know, what people can read about, you know, I'm sure they could find half of what you said on Google if you do a good enough search. But I want to talk about you, because the work that you do outwardly in the world is a representation of what you feel inside of you. Your how do you say, the story of how you live your life inside of your head, inside of your body, is what you put out to the world, right?
Right.
So what is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear, I believe, is not leaving a legacy when I'm gone, or just being forgotten. I want to know that I lived a life that impacts people like after I'm gone. You know, I feel like if more people cared about the legacy and their story they left on this earth, there would be a less selfish place. It'd be a better place. You know, because for me, it's not about what I obtained on earth or what I got. It's really about the amount of lives that I affected and how I was able to make humanity or the world better because I was here.
Okay. And that's beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
What's the one thing that you struggle with day to day?
The lack of diversity in society and the inequality of blacks in America. I would say that's something that's like, while I'm here, it's something that's kind of evident, something that I have to kind of hold in consideration throughout whatever I'm doing. You know, when I'm thinking about projects or taking on clients or working on jobs, I feel like it's my duty to always consider the fact that I have to do my part to make this place, this industry, a more diverse place.
There are things that we play over in our minds. What is that you face every day? What is that challenge?
I would say living in America, it's hard to deny that it's not a bit more challenging being an African American or a minority in general in this country. And one of the most vivid experiences that I can remember of, experiencing racism or the inequality that runs my mind, I feel it happens to be when I was younger, living in Texas. When I started driving and exploring by myself, I noticed it a lot more. It was like, wow, we're treated a lot different here. One experience I can remember is when I was 16, got my first car, and I would get pulled over in the morning going to school almost every other day.
Wow.
I'd get pulled over and for nothing, and the first thing the cop would ask is, whose car is this? Let me see the proof of ownership.
Wow.
And I'm just like, so what did I do though? Like, why are you pulling me over? What was my offense? They can never tell me, And then I realized, it's like the fact that it's a black guy driving a nice car. It's just like it's a trigger of some sort. So just like things of that sort made me understand at an early age that, again, like, it's not a fair, equal world. But however, like, your goals are still obtainable and possible. So even now as an adult, as a business owner,
Right.
I try my best to keep things as diverse as possible.
Right.
I try and speak as much on diversity and equality whenever I can. I hold workshops at Oxford University.
Yeah, I heard about those.
Where we speak about diversity in entertainment, and we speak about diversity in the world, and it's a big topic, and I feel like I've had enough experiences personally
Right.
to share and hopefully can inspire somebody.
So I'll ask you like a series of questions now. You could like just answer. What's your biggest inspiration off the top of your head?
My family.
What's the biggest misconception or misperception about you?
The biggest misconception about me is that my life is so glamorous and glitzy and always fun and always with celebrities. That's a misconception. I do have a blessed life, but I think that my life is a lot more stressful than it is fun.
More money, more problems.
It's true.
What are you most anal about?
I'm most anal about the execution of my jobs.
Okay.
I'm very, very anal about perfection.
Okay. Interesting. What's the one thing about you that makes you very human that only someone living with you would know the truth about? What's that one quirk or a thing?
I'm afraid of the dark.
You are lying to me.
I am.
What do you even mean?
I just don't like being in the dark. Like, I can't sleep when the room is pitch black. I have my lights dimmed all the way to where I can still see around, or I have like a little lamp on somewhere, but complete pitch black, nope, not me.
So I know what to get you for Christmas.
A nightlight.
A nightlight.
That's hilarious. A grown ass man.
You know what? We all have our thing, Okay, what do you want to be remembered for?
Creating an outlet or avenue for children and youth to be able to get closer to their dreams. I want to give kids opportunity to achieve their dreams all over the world.
What's the most Nigerian thing about you. So like, because I know you're born there, you have family, your culture is there, your parents are Nigerian, you go back there all the time, but you've lived in the US for so long. But you know, there's something in your culture, like me with my Bajan accent, there's some things that you just cannot let go. What is that?
The most Nigerian thing about me is definitely the way I cook. When I cook, like I can't help but to make everything like Africanized, whether it's eggs or rice or salad.
What do you
like,
put in it?
I don't know. Just like I just put everything in it.
I know what you mean.
I just put
though.
all the seasoning in it. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but I learned how to cook from my mom and dad.
Right.
They both cook, and so I feel like whatever I make is always like a bit of an African twist.
Right.
And you know, like this boy is like not from here.
So you could eat salad and the salad is well seasoned.
Well, there's like tomatoes and egg and like all these things and then carrots and all for sure.
I love that.
Yeah.
Huh, that's interesting.
And tuna or fish or salmon or all of that.
It's interesting. I like that. All right. What is your wish for your people?
My wish for my people is for them to unify. My wish for them is for them to come together and build each other up.
Okay.
It's that simple.
And what's your wish for the world?
My wish for the world is I want the world to have equal respect for each other. You know, races, genders. There needs to be more of an equality all over, everywhere.
Yeah. And what would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self to take advantage of every situation and don't be scared to express how you feel. Because that was a lesson I learned at a later age.
Yeah.
That I wish I was able to do younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
God damn it. I
It's
feel
important.
like I learned that yesterday. Like,
I learned that like last night.
like 5 minutes before I walked in
I
here.
for
Like,
sure learned that
shit.
recently. I was like, because your biggest regrets in life are not what you did, really.
Right.
It's more what you didn't
What you
do.
didn't do. It's
More so. Like there's been times when I was younger and I was in a situation where I was around somebody that I knew I could have asked something, or like somebody that could have gave me advice or helped me with something, whether it's like a celebrity or anybody.
Yeah.
And out of fear of being rejected or fear of looking like a groupie, I wouldn't say anything at all. And it'll always be in my mind like, damn, like what if I just like went up to them and said something? What if I just introduced myself? So I think that's one thing that, I learned later and has been very valuable, is just like be more fearless, and be more confident in what you have to offer and talk about.
Is there anyone you want to meet?
Anyone that I want to meet, I would love to meet more world leaders and presidents. I'd love to meet the president of Rwanda. I'd love to meet
President of Rwanda, who's that now?
Paul Kagame. Kagame, he's a very innovative, forward-thinking president.
He's right after. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd love to meet Lamide Sanusi. He's the governor of Kano. I'm really interested in meeting people that are the ones that make decisions that kind of feel and run everything.
Right.
I think it's very interesting.
Sounds like you want to do the same thing.
Who knows? I'm inquisitive.
I know.
I'm inquisitive. I want to know what that's all about. I want to know what it takes to run a country or a city. I've worked with a lot of celebrities on different levels, from super A-list to up and coming, and that's been fun. That's been great. But now I'm just really inspired by politicians and by leaders, people that are like activists, people that are able to either put others before themselves or, risk their lives for what they believe in. That's inspiring to me.
Dope. Well, I wish you all the best. I've asked you a lot of questions, what I wanted to know. But if you could leave anything in this space, I'm not going to ask you. You just, if there's anything on your heart or in your soul or in your spirit that you would want to just say, it could be something profound or not at all, but what would that be?
I would say that each and every one of us has a voice and has a message of some sort. You know, it's our duty at some point to make sure that we are able to express that at some point of our lives. And so we should fearlessly go after expressing our messages, whether it's through our jobs, through our hobbies, through our love. You know, I think it's important for us all to be confident with whatever our own purpose is. That's it.
Vote Ugo for president.
Coming soon, cool. 2030 maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you, that was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing this space with us. I hope that somewhere along the way you find value in the stories of our guests that opens your hearts, inspires you, helps you uncover your own truth, or simply provoke deeper thoughts in your lives. Be sure to subscribe and join us here next time for another episode of Life and Lemonade.
No, right. There we go.
In this situation, were I to continuously, let me skip this, sorry.
He's in demand, guys. Like, his doorbell is constantly ringing.
This is Life and Lemonade.